Hi, my name is Marie. I like to make things and I like to turn around and show you how I made those things. Welcome to my channel. I usually do something like spicy, but I don't have the spicy. If it doesn't come naturally, then move on with your life. Anyway, you guys, today we are going to make these earrings. For some reason, I've been calling them labyrinth circle earrings. I don't know. I feel weird naming things, but I don't know, I just like that name. So anyway, let's get into what supplies you're gonna need. Okay, so far these are the supplies that I gathered for this project. Of course, we're gonna need our bent chain nose pliers. I have a wire straightener, I have flush cutters, and then I have my bail makers from 𝕬𝕐𝕝 that I love so much. 6 sizes. It's perfect for making any type of loop, okay? So that's the pliers. Now, with the beads. Now, in the past, I have made this project using beads or 6-0 beads. This is what it looks like, what they usually look like. But what I found that these are really heavy for me. They're like a little too heavy for my liking, but they look really cute. But what we are going to use is seed beads, 11-0 seed beads. 10-0 will work just fine. Personally, I can't even tell the difference between the both of them. So 10, if it says 10-0, you're good. If it says 11-0, you're good also. There's really not that much of a difference. So I have these beads that I just have lying around. You can use whatever color. This color in particular, I got it from Capital City Beads. I'll leave a link in the description box below. There's no discount or anything connected with it. I'm not in any way affiliated with them. I just happened to find one of their sales and bought these beads because they're such a pretty green. As you could tell, my nail color is that color too. I just love this color. I found these posts. I will put them in the description box below in the supplies. These simple posts that are, you know, shiny. They have a hole at the bottom of them, and they're perfect for this project. 2 jump rings, 2 clear earring backs, nothing special about them. You just need some earring backs. A ruler to rule out your measure, to rule out your wire. No, you need a ruler to measure out the length of your wire. I have both 22 gauge copper wire and 16 gauge copper wire. Okay, of course, I always label them. I label them twice. I label them on the bottom, and then they already have a label at the top. So that's just in case the label comes off. So the 16 gauge is going to be our foundation. So if you're going to be using bigger beads, you're going to need a little bit more of foundation wire in order to accomplish that. The 22 gauge is not going to change if you're going to use E-beads. It doesn't matter what you're stringing the beads on, just as long as your foundation is long enough to accommodate the bigger beads, okay? Now that we got our supplies in order, let's get right into it, okay? So we are going to start with the 16 gauge, okay? We're going to need 3 inches of wire. So we need 2 pieces, and each piece is going to be 3 inches, okay? Now, if you are going to be using E-beads or bigger beads, I would say go to 4 inches for the foundation wire, okay? But for us using our C beads, we are going to need 3 inches of this 16 gauge copper wire, okay? 1 piece, 3 inches, and then we got our second piece at 3 inches. Okay. All right, so we're gonna set that aside. Now we have our 2 pieces of wire here, okay? Now I'm going to take my loopers or my bail makers, and I'm just like, it doesn't really matter what type of loop you're putting in there, just as long as it's a loop, okay? And then both loops have to be the same, okay? Because we want to have a loop in the middle of this wire, okay? So how I do that is I'm going to start with bending this wire in half. That's going to make it easier for us to get right into our loop here, okay? So I'm going to bend this in half, and I like to keep it even, but if it's not even, it's not the end of the world, okay? So here we go. We got it fairly even. So I bent it in half, okay? And then from here, I'm just going to cross the wires over each other, cross both these ends over, and you got a loop in the middle. Okay, so I'm trying to keep it as straight as possible. Set that aside, do the same thing for the other piece of wire. Trying to keep it as even as possible, fold it in half. Now we're gonna cross the wires over each other, boop. And there we go. So we got a loop. Now, next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my chain nose real quick, okay? And I am going to, what I wanna do is, we're gonna want to have these two loops intertwine on each other, okay? And how I usually do that is I try to take and I open up the loop just a little bit, nothing crazy. So it's like a little lazy loop that I have here, okay? Do the same thing for the other piece. Open it up a little bit, make it into like a little lazy loop. It's open, okay? And I also want to keep that wire straight, okay? Then I'm going to take one end and I'm going to put one end into the loop. So I'm just like stringing them on each other, kind of. They're going to be lazily connected. So they're connected, but I want to close these loops and make sure that they're locked in. Okay, so I'm going to take my chain nose to do that, and I'm just going to squish it down so that they can't come unloose from each other. Okay, squish both ends down. Okay, this may sound crazy. You may be like, why are we doing this? It's not even doing anything for us. They're not even holding together. Doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm just going to put these down on my work table. This is basically what our foundation is. Now, so again, I'm going to remind you, if you're going to be using e-beads, these foundation wires need to be a little bit longer because you're trying to have enough space to accommodate those bigger beads. Okay, so just keep that in mind. These are 3 inches of the 16 gauge wire. You're going to need 4 inches at least. Okay, and if you're like, oh, I really want to make them bigger or make the earring bigger, of course the foundation has to be bigger. Okay, keep that in mind. All right. Okay, from this point, I'm going to take my 22 gauge wire and I'm going to pull out a piece. It doesn't matter how long this piece is. This is not important. I'm doing a nice little size piece. I'm not trying to make it too big because then you run into a problem of trying to keep the wire together. So you don't want to do that. So I just want to have a nice size piece. Then you see this little kink right here. Again, I'm going to use my wire straighteners because I love to have my wire straightened now because I'm been running into problems where I'm trying to bend these wires that are already bent and then they snap. So I am going to straighten these out, and it hardens the wire a little bit too. So I'm going to go down, whoop, I'll go down. Okay, so now we have this little lazy, crazy little cross loop thing situation. I'm just going to pick it up here because all I want to do is I want to get this wire onto this middle. So I'm just going to string it through the middle. Nothing crazy. So I'm going to string it through the middle. Now, for the most part, I like to just leave it the way it is. Leave this end the way it is for right now. We're going to tie that in later. So I want to get these crosses in the positions where into the position they need to be. So I'm holding it between my fingers here. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever been to summer camp way back in the day. I remember we used to have these popsicles. And they would tell us to save the popsicle sticks. And then after we're done eating the popsicles, and then they would take and do a craft project with it. Now, this is where I'm getting this memory from, okay? Is from camp, okay? They will give each of us 2 popsicle sticks. We will cross them over on each other, and then they will give us balls of yarn, and we'll just wrap around and make a little, I don't even know what they call it. Was it Dreamcatchers or something like that? So I'm using this core memory in order to create these earrings, okay? What we would do is we will always wrap the yarn the same way on each popsicle stick, okay? So we are going to be wrapping it over these sticks right here. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it in front of it. So we're going, because we're going to wrap around this one first, and we just go around it like that. That's it. We'll move on to the next one. This is going to lock this wire, these wire foundations in place. Okay, go across the front of the next one, wrap it around. Go to the next one here, go to the front of it, wrap it around. Go to the front of it, and then we're going to wrap it around. Okay, so we're going full circle now. So I'm back at the beginning of where I started. Okay, so this is locking these in position now. They're not going anywhere. So I'm going to do this for 2 more rows. Okay. So you can actually count the actual wires going in the middle just to know how much you did. Now, instead of just wrapping the wire around our post without any beads on them, we're going to put beads in the middle. So that's where all these beads are going to go. It's going to go all in the middle here. So I'm going to start stringing them on. And it doesn't matter how many beads you put on as long as it fits in between these 2 areas right here. So the beads have to fill this area. Same thing on this side, all the sides. It's just putting beads in between these posts, okay? So I'm going to string these on real quick. Okay, so now I have them strung on, and I have a certain amount that I want in between here. There's a certain way I want it to be. I want it so that these wires are very close together. We want to have that space there in between those 2 wire rows, okay? So we might have to do less beads, okay? So if you do too many beads, that's okay. Just throw them right back in your tray. And then, just like we were wrapping it around with just the wire, we're going to do the same thing. I have the wire going in front of this post here, okay? And I'm just going to wrap it around the back like I did on the other ones, and just going in that same direction, okay? Again, I'm going to straighten out my wire. Straightening out your wire also helps keep the bead straight, so it looks very uniform and smooth, and it goes in a nice little arc and a nice little bend in this circle that we want. Okay, so I'm gonna string out some more beads. Okay, all right, so now I got another layer of beads, and again I'm going to wrap this around the front, wrap it around so it comes out through the back. Now, as you can see, I'm running out of wire here, and that is okay. So if I want to end this off, I don't want this to be wrapping it up the wire. I want to wrap it down because I want to hide it a little bit. Not only do I want to hide it, I want to make sure that it's not going to get in the way of the next row of beads that I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it down because I want it out of the way. To do that, I take this wire and I bend it just a smidgle, okay? I'm just bending it because I want to try to get in between, because I'm trying to get it in between this row and the row below it, okay? This is only if I'm trying to add more wire. So I put it underneath that row and I'm going to pull it out, and I'm just going to wrap it around just so I can hide it a smidge. And this, for the most part, you can just like wrap this once, but if you're like, I really want this to be secure, just wrap it again. Nothing crazy. It's all about hiding the wires and not making the wires look so obvious. You know what I'm saying? And then I also take my chain nose and I like to squish everything down so it's more compact. Like this one is going up a little bit higher than I need it to be. So I'm just going to squish it down and make it more compact. Okay, I like that. Now that I wrap this wire around a couple times, we're good. I'm going to cut the wire. Okay, and this is also a good time to go back to our beginning of that beginning of this wire, which is the one we just started, where we started. And I'm just going to go and just pay attention as to where the wire was and where it is going. And I'm just going to wrap this in two. Nothing crazy. I'm just trying to secure it a little bit more. And I'm going to cut that. Okay. And make sure that the end is secure so it's not poking you. So far this is what we have, okay? Now I'm going to take another little piece of this 22 gauge wire. Let me straighten that out real quick. All right. Give myself a little bit. Alrighty. So I got a nice little bit. So paying attention to where I was just doing this row. This is my last little row that I did. So I'm just going to stick the wire in a couple rows down and secure it that way. Just using the actual end, I'm just going to secure this wire in here. It's not about what's right and what's wrong about it. Just make sure that the wire is secure. That's all you're trying to do. And if it has a little end, that's even better, because then all you have to do is just squish the end down to secure it. So now you have a piece of wire that you can work with and start stringing on some beads, okay? Use my wire straighteners. I got my wire in position, and so now I'm going to start stringing on beads. It's just that easy. We're laying our wire so that it's in front of our foundation pole here, and we're going to wrap it around and pulling it tight. And then I'm going to squish it down just to make sure it's in the right positions, because we also want to make sure we're not using so much space on our foundation poles that we're not going to have enough to finish our earrings. So I just want to make sure I have enough space and I'm not using up the whole pole for no reason, you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to make sure I have enough space to work with. And that would entail me squishing these down a little bit more. All right, so here you go. I don't know, do you think you guys got this? That I can just fast forward through this? Let's do it one more time, okay? So I'm going to string on some beads real quick. Okay, again, it doesn't really matter how many beads you're putting on there, just as long as they fit in between these foundation poles. Okay, so this one seems like it fits, okay. But I want to make sure that I don't have too much of a space there, so I'm going to take off one of these beads, and it makes it go down a little lower, see? And I am going to wrap this around, and then we're going to string on more beads again. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue filling these in, and I'm going to fast forward through this, and then the next bit that you're going to see is me finishing this off. Okay, so stay tuned. Okay, so let's finish this off now. I went 8 rows of seed beads, okay? You know, if you want to try to keep it as a perfect circle, you can start squishing down the beads. What will work is if I take one of these beads off of here, okay? It's going to make the rows a little bit closer together, and then I'm going to finish it off that way. Okay? So that looks a little better, just blends in better that way. So I like it. So I'm going to take this in, and I'm just going to wrap it around inside and go down the post a little bit more, just so I can get it so that it lays down and it doesn't come unraveled later on. And I always want to cut off the ends of my wires in the back of the earrings. And then I also want to make sure that I'm pushing down our ends. Okay, so it should start to look like this. So this is the front, and then this is the back, okay? So now I'm looking at these posts, and I want to make sure that the longest one I have, I'm going to keep that the way it is, okay? So we're not going to mess with this one. Now these 3 right here, 1, 2, 3, we're going to bend those back and behind our earring, okay? Okay, 1, 2, and then 3. Okay, so then we'll have this post here. Now, I personally don't want these to be so long, so I'm going to cut them a little bit. All right, and then I'm going to squish them down as much as I can without squishing any of our beads in the middle of our pliers, because then that would mess the whole earring up, and then you'll cry, and then I can't help you. Sorry. So just try not to pop any of your beads in the pliers. But we also want to just make sure that it's flat and it's not sharp or anything. And it feels good to me, okay? So now we have this post. Now, what we need to do is put a loop on here, okay? And so it matters which way you put your loop, okay? So what I'm going to do is, we have the front of our work right here. We want this loop to go sideways, so we're going to bend the wire sideways, okay? So we bent the wire sideways. Then I'm going to take my loopers, and I'm going to create a loop that's going this direction, not this direction, okay? Now I want to use the smallest loop I have, and then I'm going to create a bit of a loop. Doesn't have to be crazy, just as long as it's going sideways and not front to back, okay? And it's going to be hard with the 16 gauge wire. For some reason, I always have trouble with 16 gauge wire. It's a little tough, okay? And that's okay. It could be as tough as it wants to be. That's why we're using it as our foundation, okay? So now I have this loop going from side to side. I'm going to cut my wire. Okay, then I'm going to tighten up my loop a little bit more, okay? So neaten it up just a smidgle so it's not looking like the bottom of my shoe. All right, so now we have a loop going this way. Okay, so this is the front. We got our loop, looking great, going from side to side and not this way. Another reason why your earrings don't lay flat is you need to put a jump ring on. And if your loops to begin with are in the right spot, they are going to lay correctly. Okay, so I'm gonna close this jump ring just a little bit, grab my I'm also paying attention to where the front is and where the back is, okay? All right, I'm gonna close it. Here's the result, okay? You got the nice front, nice clean back. Okay, so let's try this earring on. Look at that, so pretty. Well, this is what it looks like from afar. Okay, let me show you a close-up of it. These are pretty awesome. I like them a lot. And they're not too heavy. I try to make this project customizable to different people's style preferences. So I hope it works, okay? I always get to the end of the video and I'm like, what do I do at the end of the video? But what I do want to do, I want to showcase different people's comments because I have gotten, oh my goodness, how many comments? I can't even put a number to it. It's like we're getting into the like 10,000s of comments that people made on my videos. And so I wanted to showcase some comments that were just amazing. I just love that. And I think I'm going to be doing that at the end of every one of my videos. So yeah, I can do what I want, okay? So anyway, you guys, make sure you go to the description box. Read the description box because there's a lot of things that I don't say in the video because I forget, okay? So sometimes I forget to mention that I have merch, okay? Look at this. This is one of my favorite hoodies. So I have this hoodie that's in the description box below, or a link to all my hoodies and shirts and t-shirts and stuff like that are linked in the description box below. Also, these earrings I was wearing throughout the video, these are linked in the description box below. Okay. Oh, also in the description box below is the email. If you want to be a part of my Discord, if you need help on any of the projects that I post or anything like that, you can get in on my Discord, email me, I will send you the link, get you in there. Only if you promise to be nice to other people, because if you're like, I'm fitting to come in there and be mean, I will block you. So anyway, I only had to block one person. I erased their comments and I blocked them. So I'm not afraid to block you. Bye. Again, I will see you guys in the live stream or in the next video. Okay? Bye. I like that one. That was kind of perfect. Okay.